Hey everyone, so for today's video, I wanted to talk about the new grad stage as well as give some tips and more so just kind of an in-depth guide as to what you're going to need to know to kind of succeed when playing against him. Let me jump right into it though, because this is going to take some time, so make sure you guys are listening. I'm going to put some chapters as well if you want to skip to specific parts, because I'm going to try to do this in 3 separate kind of sections. The first part here soon is going to be talking about the mechanics. After that, I'm going to talk about team comps as well as roles or units you want to run. And for the final part, I'm going to actually play it live with you guys and let you know what I'm thinking while playing it. Anyways, though, hopping right into it though, starting with the actual passives of the enemy. When you first start, he's of course going to have reflection and arts gauge resistance. He's also going to take more damage when you blind him. What that means is that you're going to either want to run equips that blind or run units that blind. It is a lot harder to find units that blind considering how rare it is. You could run Diablo or just honestly use equips that are going to blind, such as Tres Lantes or the 5-star physical equip from the Ragsharm event in Halloween that also blinds, but it does have a high CT. But you could also just get away with not blinding at all if you have strong enough DPS, but it is going to be a little longer. He also lowers the accuracy of your units that are below 50% HP. What this means is that you want to have a competent healer, you know what I mean? This is, of course, could be anybody. I'm going to get more so into that later on when I talk about team comps, but you want to make sure your team is staying above 50% HP. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty much impossible to actually hit Grad. He also targets the units that is doing the most damage, which means he also increases his crit rate towards them. This isn't necessarily a problem if you're running, a barrier or taunt tank, but it could be if you're trying to run a comp without one, which is a little hard, I'm not going to lie. Regardless, moving on, once you get to the 70% barrier or marker, before you actually hit that, the only thing that's really important to know is that Grad will art once his orbs get to 5. It doesn't faint you quite yet, but do keep in mind it can do a lot of damage, so make sure you have your barriers or tanks set up before that. Otherwise, your team will get wiped. But anyways, once you hit that 70% marker, he will actually increase his arts gauge filling speed, meaning he'll art more often. Additionally, rather than using his art, he'll actually start the true art. What this means is that once his bars fill up, he'll actually start doing more damage, as well as the additional effect of fainting a random unit on your team. What this means is that you don't want to wait too long, otherwise your important units are going to get fainted and then you're just gonna die, you know what I mean? He will also lower your recovery amount for your team, as well as fainting a random target. What I've found is that the target he tends to faint is the one doing the most TPS. So do with that what you will. It's kind of inevitable. But as for the recovery amount down, that is also very noticeable. So you want to make sure you're running HP recovery rate up equips or units that just heal a ton. Additionally, he'll start to summon the Winged Corpse, which will randomly pop up and cut your team's HP by half. And paired with the HP recovery down, it makes it very hard to stay above 50%. So like I said before, you want to make sure your team has good heals, or at the very least equips that will increase your stats up so that you don't have to worry about staying below 50%. Up to his 30% bar then, once you hit that 30% marker, he'll actually increase his evasion rate, as well as getting 100% crit resist and some physical resistance as well. He will also decrease your recovery rate even more, as well as fainting, I believe, the strongest damaging unit so far too. So what I'm saying with this is you want to make sure you obviously bring a high accuracy unit. I know a lot of people might think you want to bring accuracy in case you fall below 50% HP, but that isn't it. Even with units with high accuracy, once you fall below that 50% threshold, it's going to be almost impossible. You're just bringing the high accuracy unit to deal with this 30% marker. For crit resist, if you're bringing a crit damager, you want to make sure that not only do you have crit rate up for your team or just that unit in particular, but you want somebody that's going to lower crit resist. And for the physical resist, honestly, It doesn't seem like it's that much because I have ran pretty much all my comps with physical DPS, and I haven't really seen a whole lot of differences. But I mean, if you want to run a magic DPS, it'll bypass this, but it doesn't really matter too much from what I've tested. And then once you get to the 0% marker, he'll increase his art gauge filling speed yet again, meaning that he's going to be using his true art quite a bit, meaning your entire team is going to get fainted. Or not your entire team, but units will be getting fainted left and right, so you want to go through this as fast as you can. And he'll faint another unit, which I believe, like I said, is the highest damaging unit. And as well as that, once he reaches 0, he'll actually heal back up to 30%, and then he won't have anything else. He'll just start summoning the winged corpse, which will, cut your team's HP by half more frequently. He'll faint random units on your team more frequently, but it's nothing really super annoying. You just want to make sure you have everything that you need, and you're kind of chilling, I'm not going to lie. But that's about it for the mechanics of the stage. It's nothing really that crazy. You just kind of have to build your team around those specific mechanics. But once you do, it's really kind of just light work. But let me get into actual team comps that you want to run. All right, kind of moving on to actually making teams. As you could see, I have Kirisame on my team. And for the first unit, keep in mind, I'm just putting the visual of where they are just to kind of, layer it 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't have to be in the specific position, obviously, especially for units that position differently or have certain abilities. But regardless, kind of just to start off, I think you should have either a taunt or a barrier. So what that's going to mean is somebody that can either negate damage for the team or give a lot of damage resist. And to be honest, I've kind of found that this doesn't really kind of matter too much. You just need a slightly competent damage resist debuffer, a damage resist buffer for the team or tank, and you should be fine. Obviously, Kirisame is going to be significantly overkill, but a lot of people are going to want him because of his tanking ability, and in my opinion, he's just way too overkill, especially with that 50,000, kind of shield. I'm just giving him as an example, but kind of going through the rest of the units. Emiya, he's going to be a really popular one, you know what I mean? He's going to have his arts that has physical resist, it has a barrier, he gets passive damage resist for the team. He's going to be really easy again. Just with his defense slot, you don't even really need anybody else to have damage resist if you have him on the team, because from what I've ran, his shield is never broken, as is literally probably 90% of the units I'm about to show you that you can run as your tank. But you could also run Albedo. I have done a lot of clears with her. She's of course going to be more oriented around demons, but I've found that her shield hasn't broken at all either. Obviously, she has a ton of damage resist, you know what I mean? That's just 30% and then another 20% physical resist, which is what Grad is. So make sure you bring either dark resist defense items or you bring physical resist. But yeah, she just has a lot going for her. Her shield never broke once, so yet again, I can't go wrong with that. Ira, again, really overkill. Honestly, he doesn't really provide much else to the team besides his tanking, so you're almost actually kind of shooting yourself in the foot here by running just him. Because sure, he does have damage, but he doesn't really have accuracy unless you have other people buffing accuracy, so he won't really see much use later in the game if you're trying to also run him as a DPS. But again, a great tank. Saitama, the hero Saitama, I say he's really great on this mission, and you'll be seeing him ran a lot, not only for his defense slots, but because of this. His true arts is going to give everybody a damage barrier as well as damage resist, and I don't have Saitama, but I can imagine, especially with his defense slot, this isn't breaking. Because like I said before, Grad's damage is strong, don't get me wrong, especially if you don't have a tank. But once you have any sort of damage negation and damage resist, you're kind of okay. And the fact that he also manages to be used as a DPS, you can't go wrong with that, right? You have Beta. I haven't used her, so I'm not entirely sure if I can attest to her barrier, but considering it's more damage resist and the same damage negation as Saitama, I can imagine that she could work. She doesn't have a defense equip, so you would maybe need somebody else to run it. I haven't seen how low damage resist you could run on Grad, but I'd imagine she's okay, especially considering she's giving Arts Gauge, magic damage, all that stuff. And in my opinion, that's kind of what makes a unit good, if they can be ran in multiple slots. Like, she can be your technical damage resist buffer / damage negator while providing ARTGEN and damage. Here we have a classic, Thetis. I ran him, no issues at all. You just spam True Art, especially if you have his Aqueous Stream, which will give him more damage resist. He's not going to have any issues running this, which is really surprising. But yeah, if you guys got him in Forever Summons or you don't have a lot of 6 stars, he's still just as solid as the day he came out, especially for this mission. So just spam True Art and you're good to go. Just the kind of one downside is that he doesn't really provide much else besides that. But if you just need to make sure your team doesn't die, he's going to do the trick. Again, I also have Volti. He's a little harder to make use of, but I'm kind of showing how easy kind of it is to have damage resist. You don't need to just have the same units, you know, Emiya, Kirisame, all these super OP units. You can even run him because he has a damage barrier of 25k, physical resist. He gets 20% damage near death. Obviously, you're going to want to run Truth of Eternity so he gets more damage resist near death. But once you also put defense equips and all these equips that give him damage resist, he's going to be fine. He's going to be just as usable, especially with his barrier. So don't worry about him either. But if you have him and you don't have, you know, Thetis, you can run him as well. He's also nice if you're going to run an Earth DPS, considering he does increase allies' Earth damage, but that's whatever. And then for the final slot, this is more so kind of a joke. Not really though, especially if you have his Heal True Weapon, because it'll give him 35% physical resist. I haven't personally ran him, but I'm not going to lie, I see no reason that he can't run this. He gets a 15,000 damage shield when he has his True Weapon, his heal one. You can run Gargantua, and you can probably run a support equip from with the passive of Truth of Eternity. If you also have Truth of Eternity on him as well, yeah, there's going to really be no issue running him. Just kind of the fact that he'll lose his taunt once he arts, but you can kind of work around that. But this is obviously a joke. I'm just showing how easy it is to tank. So don't make people tell you, if you're running it in multiplayer anyways, that you need a specific unit if there's so many units you can run. But anyways, kind of moving into the next sort of category. For the next category, I'm going to have ARTGENers. So this is a very wide array of units. You know, there can be basically anybody that ARTGENs, but what you want to look for is somebody that can do a lot. You know, they're very versatile. And obviously, starting out, we're going to have Roy. He does a lot for the team. He has a defense slot, which is going to be helpful. He has his super arts, which actually increases everyone's arts by 140, as well as giving 150% physical damage. This is going to be really good to just support your DPS, as well as his passive, which is pretty nice. 50% physical resist is going to be very noticeable if you run him. Yeah, he's a great option. Not the only option, but a really good option, don't get me wrong. Moving on, we have Emperor. He has a defense slot. He has the potential support slot if you want to run equips that increase stats for the team, so you get that little bit more of survivability. He gives 80 arts as well as a 120% damage resist debuff because Grad is a demon. You could pop this, although you could just get away with spamming this the entire time. But if you need his defense equips to be up, you know, if you run something that's higher CT, you could use that as well. He's another solid option. Not going to be your DPS unless you would really want him to, but more so just as a supporter. Next, we have Hauka. I know everybody's going to be asking for him because he just does so much. He does that crit damage, a ton of arts on super art. And this, also important, I mentioned earlier that crit resist debuffing is going to be important because if you just have a unit that buffs their own crit or another unit that increases crit for the team, once you get to his 30% threshold, you're kind of going to come to a standstill because they can't crit anymore. But if you have that being buffed, you know, their crit rate, and then you have crit resistance being debuffed, you're going to be able to crit again. And especially if you're running Halka, you want to crit, considering he gives everyone a 300% damage buff, critting. He also increases accuracy, so that's really great, especially if you don't have a unit that increases their own accuracy or the equips. This will be really nice, but he can only do so much. So you would either choose super arts and true arts or super arts and arts. He also increases max HP, which is really solid. His true weapon is also really good because it'll increase human allies' stats. So that'll be that little bit more of survivability, but in all, just kind of a great option, even if he's not on water teams. Next, we have War God Fen. I don't know why his art didn't load yet, but whatever. He's going to be another great option because he gives everybody crit rate, which you're going to want definitely, especially paired with crit resistance down. But he also increases everyone's accuracy, again, important on the stage, as well as equip CT recovery, which is really good. He has great slots, obviously, support slot, you know what I mean? He's just going to do so much for the team, potential damage resist, that 50 arts at the start to kind of boost you to a good level. His true weapon is good for damage, but it's whatever. Moving on, though, we have Freerin. She's another great option. Case in point, her arts. This 60% stats up is going to help you a whole lot, especially in terms of total healing, because once you get those recovery rate downs, you're going to really want to make sure you have high health so that your team isn't getting lowered below 50% HP. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible to hit Grad. She's also providing a bunch of ARTGEN, a nice damage resist, you know, or damage buff to the team, more so light units. But this is also really good. If you don't have enough crit or crit resist to kind of be able to crit, this defense ignore is going to allow your team to basically do that without any hassle. You don't need to worry about running somebody who specifically crits, and you can kind of use whoever you want, which is a lifesaver. She also has really great slots, so yeah. Moving on, though, we have Alpha. I just have her here solely because of the fact she lowers crit resist. If you're running a light team or physical team that you want to run her on, go for it, but I just have her here as an ARTGEN who also happens to lower crit resist. In that same regard, I have Ubel, which you might have not thought of, but definitely Ubel because she is type F and lowers crit resist. So yeah, and she also increases her own accuracy. So she could definitely work on this stage. I have Sunraku here solely because of, yet again, the crit resist debuff. He could DPS himself, but not necessarily. He gives fire allies damage resist, but that's really whatever. He's more so kind of a last-ditch effort if you need somebody to crit on the stage. And if he's going to be your main DPS, you don't even need to worry about bringing another crit damage or crit resist buffer because he'll be doing that. But he'll also be increasing his own crit rate so he could damage himself, you know what I mean? And then final, we have Ainz. If you're going to be running a mono demon dark team, he's going to really help because he lowers crit resist by a ton. He also gives 120 arts to demon units or 80 to non-demons. But he also increases crit damage for the team. Just in all, a pretty solid unit. But that's kind of it for the ARTGENers. I'm going to be moving on. Alright, the next category is going to be healers because it is very important, especially considering that if you're below 50% HP, it's going to be pretty much impossible to hit Grad with the accuracy debuffs. So you want somebody who's going to be able to heal your team. And in this case, I have Chloe simply because of the fact she heals 400 a second just passively, as well as providing ARTGEN. She doubles everyone's HP recovery amount, so she's going to be doing a lot. She also damage buffs, which is really nice, and you could run Holy Shield of Wings on her to increase her healing even more. She's just in general a very good healer. You could also run Liza, the Earth Liza, because she's healing 10% a second for 10 seconds, which is a full heal. This is of course going to be lowered per, you know, kind of threshold when Grad lowers your recovery amount. But if you run recovery amount equips, that increase her total heal, she's going to be pretty solid. Because look, when she's a leader, she also increases everybody's heal amount. It is only for 100 seconds, but it's whatever. She heals just a ton, another great option. We have Haruto, the bread and butter. He's going to heal a good amount, 6% a second, as well as providing ARTGEN. He will increase everybody's max stats, so you get that little bit more of survivability. And then he also has this to kind of give everyone some damage buffing. It's really whatever. But you're going to have him more so just to make sure your team doesn't fall below that kind of 50% threshold. Next, we have Mako. Her heal is a little bit on the weaker side. It is only 400 a second, but I have her here because of that ARTGEN, arts damage, damage resist debuff. She has great slots. And then her passives will increase human allies, arts gauge. You could also get away with potentially doing this because it's going to increase everyone's max HP, and that physical resist is going to be really nice. I mean, considering you have any literally tank, you're going to be fine, so that's not really going to matter. But regardless, still going to be solid. Especially if you run Holy Shield of Wings, which you really want. Her heals are going to be basically nothing if you don't have that, so you want to, at the very least, run that. Finally, we have Demon Lord Vox. Again, he's going to be on your demon teams, but on those demon teams, he's going to be a lifesaver. 60% stats up and accuracy. That's going to allow your entire team to be able to hit Grad, as well as be able to heal, because this is going to act as your pseudo heal. He'll increase everybody's, or at least demon allies, arts by 3 a second. He increases everyone's crit rate as well as his own super crit rate. And paired with Einz, the entire team's going to be able to crit on Grad, especially once you get past that 30% threshold. So just a great option in general, especially if you want to run all of the Dark Relics. Here I have actually equips that you're going to want to run if you don't necessarily have the best of healing. Narbarrel's headdress is great on light units because it increases everyone's max HP. We also have Epsilon plushie, which is the same thing, but you could run it on a water unit such as Halka. And then we have Liza's Smart Skirt, which is going to be what those do, but it's actually not tied to anybody in particular. It's just all stats up. If we go here, let me show you that Holy Shield of Wings that I was talking about. It's, okay, well, if it actually shows it, well, it doesn't show it, but it kind of just looks like a shield with wings at the side, and it actually increases the target's HP healing amount, meaning if you run this on Mako, she'll double her healing amount once it's maxed out, or any healer. So this is going to be quite a bit of help. But I will be moving on, though, to the next kind of category. Coming in at the last slot, though, we're going to have our DPS. And because of the mechanics, you're preferably going to want to run a unit that has high accuracy to counter that evasion up at the 30% threshold. Preferably magic as well, since he does get physical resist, but I haven't really noticed it too much. You could kind of get away with whatever kind of DPS, as I mentioned earlier, as I'm showing you right here with Saito. You could also kind of have accuracy up on passives or equips such as Pronimos. It's really whatever. Just have any equips up that will increase accuracy if you don't have a particular unit that increases accuracy themselves. But I'm going to be showing some DPS that kind of are the best. Everybody's obviously going to be asking for Saito simply because of the fact he increases his accuracy and just does so much. A bunch of damage resist debuffing. Just really great. He also has that stats up on arts, which is going to be really nice for healing of sorts. Next up, we're going to have Uzu. Low-key, I'm not going to lie, he's kind of a slept-on unit, but I really like him. I've been enjoying running him on the stage. He has that defense slot kind of for survivability, and when fully stacked, he just does so much, you know what I mean? He's giving himself crit rate, so you only need to worry about running a crit resist debuffer, but he's also giving himself 75% super crit, 130% damage. He's lowering 150% physical resist, but additionally, he gets 100% attack and accuracy when he doesn't have a status ailment. Grad doesn't actually inflict any status ailments, so this isn't going to be a bother. And even if he did blind, he has blind resist, but he doesn't blind. So yeah, he has accuracy up, all the accuracy you need to be able to hit. This isn't really going to matter too much, especially since you don't want him to be near death, because below 50% HP, this accuracy up isn't even going to matter because he's not going to be able to hit anyways. But he's another great option. We have Jay. His art isn't showing here for some reason. This guy, you can tell. If you're running a full water team, he's going to be really great. Additionally, his passive will actually give him 60% accuracy. So that's yet again another great way to be, kind of make him hit. You could run the 3-star physical Karks to give him 30% more accuracy, but you're kind of just going to want him because he does so much damage and you really cannot go wrong with him. But finally, we have Hazuki. I'm mostly having her here just because of the fact she increases everybody's arts damage and damage resist. She also increases everybody's accuracy, but she'll also give herself 100% accuracy and attack. So if you're going to kind of suffer for DPS that have higher accuracy, you can run her. She's also increasing everybody's accuracy and her own damage and arts. So just another great option, especially on mono light. But that's kind of it for the teams. Keep in mind, those aren't all of the units you need. You know what I mean? You can kind of swap units around. You can have units that do more for the team or are more versatile or do a wide variety of things. Case in point, Hauka, he's going to be ARTGENing, damage buffing, crit resist debuffing. He has accuracy up. He has slots that you can hold equips to boost your team's stats up, which can act as a heal. But just in general, you want to run a kind of variety of damagers, healers, ARTGENers, but don't kind of let somebody in multiplayer, because, I've gone to multi and I've seen how bad it is. Don't let them say you need this unit, because you can run pretty much any unit. The most kind of versatile kind of slot so far is going to be your tank. You can pretty much run anybody. So if you have Thetis, you can just have him there just tanking all the damage while the rest of the team does everything for you. But yeah, that's kind of going to be it for this. Next, I'm going to actually play the mission myself and let you guys know what I'm thinking while I'm doing it. Alright, and for the final portion of the video, I'm going to actually be playing through it, and I kind of want to show you my recent clear was with this mono Demon Dark team. Obviously, it is a somewhat meta team, so it's pretty fast, as you can see. But, I mean, if we were looking through everything here, I don't want you guys... I mean, obviously, if you have teams like this, you can run this. But I don't want you to think, especially in terms of that these are the only units you can run. Like Saito, I see him often, but that's because he's just really good. But just because he's really good doesn't mean you can't bring lesser units to complete it. And that's what I feel like a lot of tutorials kind of seem to forget. You know what I mean? But yeah, let me show you kind of... I really like this team. This has been a really fun team for me. I don't know if I want to run this because it seems too meta almost. Let me see. I mean, it's not entirely meta, but I'll just run it anyways. I just want to show my thought process behind it though. Let me get all the equips on 1 moment. Holy Shield of Wings, yet again, like I said, it's great on Mako. And I'm running, let's see, Gargantua on Uzu. I just really like Uzu. He's low-key my goat. I have a bunch of damage on him. But I will kind of show you what I'm doing. Also, again, I have Epsilon plushie here. And I have Trez Lance here, simply just to blind. Because if you can blind, you're going to be doing a bunch of damage. But he doesn't necessarily need to blind, like I said earlier, to do damage. But yeah, let's kind of get into this here and not take forever. Alright. So starting off, we just want to get Hauka to his super art so we get that damage resist. Get all that starting. We also have to stack Uzu here. That's important because once we get those full stacks, he's really not... He's just gonna slide through everything, you know what I mean? But we have to make sure not to kill it too fast, otherwise our team can get wiped. Alright, we have that active, and once we pop this art, we're literally safe the rest of the game. There's literally no issue anymore. We just have so much survivability, damage, all that fun stuff. We have another stack here of Holy Shield of Wings. Let's do that, actually. This to get a little bit of damage on the board while we still stack Uzu. But I don't want to get there quite yet. I just want to max stack him. Although we can start now. If this blinds, hopefully. Yep, and then I believe Uzu should be fainted here, if I'm correct. Yep. So it should be your strongest DPS. But it's also fine that he's being fainted. It's not really that much of an issue. Because our DPS isn't what's making us live, you know? See? Once that happens at the 70%, he'll actually cut you to 50%. And if you go below that, that's going to be where the issues arise. Because then, even Uzu with his 100% accuracy can't hit. But yeah, let's kind of get him to a super art. He's going to probably wipe this here. We could pop this, I guess. Yeah, this should just full wipe. Do we even need blind? Yeah, let's do it. It's not even going to blind anyways. Okay, that's my luck. Yeah. I mean, you see how much damage that is? And then another feint. And then from here, he's going to get his crit resist, so we want to start cycling Hauka's True Art as well, so that Uzu can actually, you know, crit on the boss. Otherwise, he's quite literally useless. Yeah, we'll super art first, since I still have to art with Uzu so that he can get that 100% damage, or 130%. Not that it's necessarily needed, but it's just really nice. We'll do this. And then we'll... Oh, he fainted. Okay. I waited too long, so now... I could just pop this, I guess, for a little bit of damage. It's not going to do a whole lot. That's kind of unfortunate for us. And that's why you gotta watch out if you don't play fast enough. See, now everybody is cut to 50%. We have to pop another super art. We can't do true art quite yet because we need the arts gauge. And you see how little Uzu's damage did simply because of the fact we don't have crit? We'll pop this. That'll renew his 130% damage buff. And right here soon, once we get this potentially blind. Yep, okay. This is just going to go to the next threshold then, the 0%, where he'll start arting even faster. Is he going to actually attack him? Dang. Okay, there we go. And here now we just need to make sure everybody's kind of just running, making sure everything's working. It's not going to be an issue. Honestly, I'm not even going to art with Uzu here because once I get the true art, okay, this could be an issue. We need to make sure everybody stays above 50% HP, otherwise we're kind of cooked. But thankfully we have these equips that increase max stats, so we'll actually be fine, actually. Yeah, we should be chilling. Once Uzu isn't fainted, we're going to true art him. If he wants, okay, there we go. I don't even think it needs to blind to kill. We pop this, he's blinded, so yeah, that's game over. And honestly, just for giggles, we can art. Yep, and that's a pretty clean clear. Let's see how much total damage we did. It also wasn't the fastest of runs, but I wasn't really trying to get a speed clear. let's see. So yeah, we have obviously Uzu doing all the damage because he's the only one that really can because of his accuracy and crit damage. And he's the only one giving himself crit rate, so you know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of my thought process behind it. I don't want to go super crazy into this video, but this should be coming out to a close here soon. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about this stage. Let me know if you guys kind of like this format of guides more, because I used to just talk over the mechanics and give my thoughts. But I think it's a lot more fun when I actually get to play it with you guys, you know? Especially when I get to try out different teams. It was actually really fun giving my thoughts. But yeah, let me know down below if you guys were able to clear it, or if you actually need help clearing it, because I know it could definitely be hard. There should be people in the comments that are willing to help. But yeah, thank you a bunch for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Be sure to like and sub for more, and I will see you guys later.